Hi there, this is the 5th episode of Tyfano. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by my co-host Professor Joe Delahunty KC and our special guest Tim Mason. For those familiar with Tim, it won't come as any kind of surprise that today's conversation will revolve around loyalty, specifically how we can leverage data, insights and digital technology to deepen engagement with our most valuable customers. Tim is of course renowned for launching Tesco Clubcard, and is now CEO of Eagle Eye Solutions, a business that enables businesses to deliver personalised promotions, loyalty programs, and real-time customer engagement. Welcome.
Tim, what was so radical about the Clubcard concept for Tesco's? Tell me.
That's an interesting question. Tesco in the 1970s had been the place where your mum and dad got their Green Shield stamps and licked them and put them in the books and took them to a store and converted them into toasters and things like that. And that business, by the way, just apropos of nothing, became Argos. So what is Argos today is where you used to redeem your Green Shield stamps. And Ian McLaurin, who was the rising star in Tesco at the time, said, this is nonsense, all these horrible things, they're horrible, they're tacky. What we need to do is we need to get rid of them and we need to cut prices. And that will be the thing. And there was a massive boardroom row between the new young guard and the old Cohen acolytes as to whether they should make this change. And McLaurin won by one vote. And so Checkout was born. Now, the extraordinary thing about Checkout, front door opening, dogs about to bark, there we go. They're in. Good lads. I told you they never miss. So the amazing thing about Checkout was within a year, Tesco's market share went from 7% to 12%. Yeah. And it nearly bust the business. I mean, a big business like that doubling in size, yikes. So then 20 years go past. We're the new generation of bright young things coming through the organization. And Terry Leahy, to his eternal credit, influenced by the co-op divvy, comes up with this idea about loyalty scheme. And it was clear, and it was sort of becoming increasingly clear, that the economics of loyalty. The most important thing is if you can stop people churning out of your business, so you lose less people out of the bottom of the bucket, your business grows faster. And in 5 years, your difference in size and profitability is unbelievable. If you can reduce churn by 2-3%, 5%, you're absolutely off to the races. So he initiated a project, which I then came in and ran. And the reason I told the story about McLaurin at the beginning was, of course, the extraordinary thing was we went back to that same management team who had built their careers getting rid of, in inverted commas, loyalty programs, and said, I tell you what, guys, the transformation is going to be a loyalty program. And to their eternal credit, they said yes. It took them quite a long time to say yes. I've got to be honest. We trialed the whatsits out of the thing, but they did say yes. And of course, the day we launched, David Sainsbury's said, it's just electronic Green Shield stamps, which I'm sure the Sainsbury's PR team thought was a very, very clever, we'll prick their balloon, but completely ignored the fact that actually it was all about customer data. And the customer data mattered for two reasons. One was personalisation, which to this day, 30 years later, is still the biggest thing almost yet to happen in marketing. It's amazing how long things take. And the other thing was you just get better data. And so that instead of looking at your business just through the lens of what products are selling, what stores are doing well, you start looking at your business through the lens of who's buying what. Yeah. And that's a very, very important lens to bring to bear on the business, particularly if you're doing what we were trying to do, which was to become a more customer-centric organization. And really, it was the sort of somebody called it the apotheosis of the Every Little Helps campaign, in that it really demonstrated that we were putting the customers at the center of everything.
Yeah, put the customer first.
Yeah.
Is it still relevant now, do you think?
The programme, yes. I mean, one of the things that I always found slightly embarrassing 15, 20 years ago was actually Clubcard was nearly more popular than Tesco. And I think it still is today, which is not really, I think, the way you would want it to be. But hey ho, better that they like you for something.
Isn't that the way with, there are a couple of loyalty program examples where actually, and I think within the airline industry, that's probably quite prevalent as well, where the program itself is actually more popular than the airline. If you take Qantas's frequent flyer program, I know that is certainly true. The value of the frequent flyer program at one point was more than the airline itself. So, yeah, it can be true that the kind of the loyalty or the customer engagement piece takes over from the brand, can't it?
Yeah, which is sort of slightly counterintuitive, but there must be a reason for it. To be honest, I haven't quite got to answering. Yes, I think it still is important today, Joe.
Okay.
And, amazingly, they launched these Clubcard prices, which actually are a mass consumer initiative. They're not a targeted initiative, but it drove the penetration of Clubcard back to where it was in its pomp. One of the issues that you face when you become a business that gets good at targeted, personalised marketing is you really need consumers to be taking part and giving them your data, because that's how you do good marketing. Mm-hmm. And if they get a bit bored and your base starts atrophying, then you're just marketing to less people and you're less effective.
You're losing the data.
You've got to keep, it's this twin thing of keeping the scheme strong and then making sure that the inner guts of the scheme are great. And it's, to be honest, it's been that way ever since we launched it. So if you go back right to the beginning, you launch Clubcard, everybody goes, this is amazing. I'm getting something for nothing at Tesco. After a while, we thought, how do you get people to earn more points? I know what, we'll give them points on products. So instead of cutting prices, you say you get 200 points if you buy this product. And then we invented what I think probably back in the day was called Deals, was it? I can't remember. But it was basically, you can go to Legoland, you can go to Pizza Express, you can exchange your points. So you improve the reward. And it's a question of, actually, if you think about it fundamentally, the only reason people take part in these programs is because they think in the jargon, the burn, what they're going to get is worth the candle, so they bother to work to earn. And the better you make the burn and the more opportunities you give them to earn, you create a virtuous circle.
Yeah. The thing that comes out from what you're saying, and this is probably the link between you and Paul, is that when you look just on the head note of what a Clubcard is or what a loyalty scheme is, you're looking as a punter, a buyer, like me, to see what I get. I may not be aware that the transaction, the purchase price that I'm giving in order to get those bonuses is information about me. So the hidden or the explicit price, it's more explicit price now, is that for every time I as a customer engage with a loyalty scheme and out of it I get, some vouchers, whatever I want to do, you're actually getting a lot of information out of me, which you've used in order to target my preferences. And that's where I think over to Paul, but I'm really interested in the role in which that data acquisition, that client acquisition, customer acquisition, the degree to which you ever predicted when you first set up Clubcard, just how massive and how expansive that acquisition of data could be and how important it would be.
I think back to Tim on the importance of data. I mean, you're talking to a data guy from a data perspective, so I can say the value. I think there has to be, in order to get the data collection and collect it at scale, there has to be something in it for the customer. And you skirted around something there, Joe, which is the kind of you have to have those benefits. You have to, as a consumer, see the benefits, and they have to be very real and very tangible benefits for you in order to be able to hand over your data. And people are becoming more and more skeptical, and legislation is changing. So it's data is important. The size and scale of the data that you're collecting is very important to what Tim was just saying as well. But as a consumer, how you use that data to interact with you is really, really important too. That's probably the most important thing of all of the parts within the ecosystem. Otherwise, people aren't going to want to hand you their data or hand you the insight into themselves via their data. Tim, what would you say to that?
I mean, I think originally, when Clubcard was launched, we said we wanted to create Britain's favourite junk mail. Now, we cheated a bit because our junk mail had a check in it. But it gives you a flavour. And so what we said was, if you remember there, if anybody's old enough, the letter was signed by me in case anybody's interested. If you're old enough, it's I think we reckoned that when I stopped signing them, I probably signed 1 billion letters. There was the thing, there was your reward, and then behind it, there was, I think, probably originally six vouchers off Tropicana or whatever they were off, And the simple rule was, do they get redeemed?
Oh.
Because if they get redeemed, you're creating value. People are going, oh, that's interesting, that's something I like. And if they don't get redeemed, and we had a sort of bar below which you were not allowed to go on redemption. If you did, we mustn't do that again. And so this balanced doing what brands want to do, just get my product out to as many people as possible, where you end up with a 2 or 3% redemption, versus give me an incentive of something I buy, where you get a 30 to 50% redemption. And if you give me cash, you'll get a 98% redemption. Some people lose it on the bus or something. And you really got to watch that where these programs go wrong. I'm not actually answering the question here, but where these programs go wrong and where people get pissed off is where they only get stuff that redeems at the 2 and 3% rate, and they get nothing that redeems at the 50% rate. And even when you're constructing a promotion program today, a personalized promotion program, the sharp tip of that spear has to be, my God, they're giving me something, they're giving me money for nothing. Yeah. And that's what attracts the customer in. And they say, okay, I'll have that one, and I'll have that one, and I'll probably have that one. Well, I've never tried that board before, but I'm into it now. And suddenly they've selected a basket of things which, if you're doing your job well, you judge they will like. The answer to the question, by the way, or it's not even that, I'm not sure it's even the answer to the question, but the most important thing is personalisation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, well, it's intrusive. People won't like it. They won't want to give you your data. And my answer to that is, yeah, you're absolutely right. But not everybody. And the whole point about personalisation is, for the people who find it intrusive, who don't like it, they opt out, you don't do it. But some people, if you've got a gluten-intolerant child, and I'm good at sending you information about new and different gluten-intolerant products and blah, 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 you'll bloody love me to bits.
Yeah.
Because I'm making your life easier.
Yeah. So I love that.
As well. But it's not just that, Tim. It does make my life easier, but also it makes me feel, as a customer, seen and valued. Which in a market, where there's so many competitors after my business, if I think it's not junk mail, if I think it's targeted mail that actually saves me time, that means I'm more likely to come back and trust you.
Correct, 100%.
Yeah.
And to be honest, Joe, that is why, sorry, Paul, but that is why, in my view, grocers still have the opportunity to have an almost unique relationship with their customers. because you visit a lot, you spend a lot, you buy a lot of different things. So you give me a huge amount of data and economic latitude to dream up things that you're going to like and put some money behind it.
Yeah.
There's very, very few businesses that can do that. And if they can get that right, I know, everything is cyclical. So they're pulling out banks, they're pulling out of services, but it actually opens up the permission to say, this is a business that I trust. What products and services would I like to get from a business like this? And, and then I think it really opens up huge opportunity for innovation and development.
I 100% agree with that. The comment that you made about Britain's favourite junk mail, I love. And actually, if you look really closely on my LinkedIn profile, when there's a not that you'd ever want to, but there's a picture of me, and behind me there's a quote that said "shit that folds," and which is kind of was my perspective on DM at one time, many years ago. And what I'm just kind of thinking about, obviously we talked a lot about Clubcard, and we talked about a lot about things like the mail and DM and the performance of that. But how do you think the loyalty landscape has moved on from there? I mean, we talk about digital channels, digital ecosystem. How has it moved on technologically since then? And
it's moved on a lot technologically. It's what I do, Your Honour.
Milady, actually, but there you go.
Sorry, Joe, I do beg your pardon. She's fresh out of court, listeners and viewers, so that she's ready to wag her finger at me any moment. I think it's moved on a lot and will move on an awful lot further. One of the grocers around the world that we took on as a customer a couple of years ago, they were doing about 500 million offers a year. They've got about 20 million customers. Now, Paul will do a couple of numbers in his head and go, that sounds like quite a sophisticated, segmented program to me. And that's right. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. In order to go from doing a segmented program to a personalised program, they had to go from 500 million offers to 10 billion offers. Now, that takes some technological heft to be able to do that. And if you think about it, if I then go back even further from that, that probably gets them to spending somewhere between 5 and 10% of their marketing monies on personalised offers. The vast majority of what they still spend on mass promotions, and the balance they spend on their price list. So open to everybody. And then they've got this sort of icing on the cake, which is the personalisation layer. BCG, for example, Boston Consulting Group.
Yeah.
So one of the big consultancy groups, McKinsey would say similar, which is one of the really big opportunities at the moment is to take that 50% of money that is being spent on mass promotions and take maybe as much as half of it and personalise it. And if you do that, you'll get a 200% return on your investment. So basically, you will be much, much more profitable.
I'm glad you mentioned them, because we've followed McKinsey into quite a lot of environments, and also BCG into clients where they have made those recommendations. The question I think that comes into the minds of the grocers is, and the end client, whether it's in grocery or other retail, is which promotions are relevant to which customers, and what do I do and how do I do those? And the answer to that is data. Because McKinsey are very good, they're brilliant, but they're very good at diagnosing the issue and saying what might happen, but then following that through into getting into the data, getting down and dirty into the data to understand, okay, well, what are the shopping missions? What are the shopping habits? What are the price-sensitive customers? Who are the price-sensitive customers? All of those things that require personalisation, that requires a level of detail in the data that is important.
I agree 100%. But I think the point is, the point that I was going to make was, if you buy that, and I mean, I think there's loads of evidence that personalised promotions do. I mean, it's sort of actually becomes self-evident that personalised promotions return on investment better, because you save all that wasted money. So, if we all shop at the same shop, and you spend £10 a week, and I spend £20 a week, and Paul spends £30 a week, and they say, we'll give you £2.50 if you spend 25 quid. You, Joe, are going to say, forget it, I never spend 25 quid. They don't know who I am. Paul is going to get the money for nothing, and I'm the only person who might change my behaviour in order to take advantage with that promotion. Therefore, all the return on investment is reliant on my behaviour. Whereas if it says Joe spend 11, Tim spend 23, Paul spend 35, and we all stretch, we're all giving them a return on investment. That's why personalised promotions work at a very simple level. So if you're going to move 10% of this money, 20% of this money, it is billions of pounds.
Yep.
Now, billions of pounds is literally billions of promotions. So if you're going to do billions of promotions, first of all, you've got to have a great understanding, which is what Paul was saying. You've then got to have great AI fed by that understanding to pick the offers. And then you've got to have a monumental execution engine to make it happen.
Yeah.
And quickly.
Yeah. And so and I think that's where we are now. And what you're starting to see, now this is all unlocked by loyalty programs. This is not a conversation you can have with Aldi. You can't have this conversation with Walmart. They just can't do it.
Yeah. Why not?
But because they don't know who their customers are. They don't have a loyalty program.
Right.
So you've got to know who your customers are in order to do this.
Yeah.
So and then it's about this scale of execution, which will, because I remember once, I've quoted him once already, but dear old Ian McLaurin, he rang me up when I was a regional manager. He used to always ring the regional managing directors. I'd just taken over marketing, come back from being a regional managing director. He never spoke to people like marketing, wasn't interested in that. He rang me up. I thought, oh my God, what's going on here? And he said, how things going, Tim? I said, well, yeah, it's all jolly good. I said, the healthy eating promotion, targeted healthy eating promotion we did last week was absolutely fantastic. We got 20% increase on those customers. He said, no, very good. Why was the company like for like so rubbish then? And that was like a real life lesson to me, was it's no good going around saying, look at this 20% increase I've got here, look at this, that. If you're not moving the top line of the business, the high-ups don't give a damn what you're doing.
Well, it's a harsh lesson.
So the aggregate, so the big lesson is, if you're going to do personalisation, you've got to do a lot of it, because the aggregation of your personalisation has got to move the top line.
Tim, can I ask you a question about what you're doing now? Because I started off by asking you about the Clubcard, and that's obviously an important part of your history, but it's in the past. Tell me about Eagle Eye and where that type of joined up thinking comes that you gained doing the Clubcard and working out the loyalty scheme. What's different about what you're doing now?
Well, now it's all of nearly everything I've said isn't worth a toot, in the sense that I don't design schemes. I run a business that sells technology that enables these schemes. Some clients are interested in sort of, knowing what my view is and how what I recommend and stuff. But it is about
the tech to make it all happen.
The tech to make it happen, which is the point that I was making there. You need You need the deep insight that Paul was talking about, leading to the rules to guide the AI, and then you've got to be able to execute. One of the interesting things about Eagle Eye, which isn't a terribly big business, we turned over about 50 million last year, is that Google love us to bits. What? And the reason we love us to bits is because we feed AI. Because we enabled transactions. So basically the AI can get to a much greater level of granularity at what you should do for a customer, and then you can't get them the bloody message. So then you have to throttle it back. And it's this point about segmentation versus personalization. So basically my job is to go around the world banging the drum for the benefits of a loyalty scheme, which basically are improved sales, access the data, run your business better, and then the benefits of personalization. And the new news that's coming out of personalization is greater profitability. So I think that at the moment, the burning platform that said, what am I going to do about loyalty? What am I going to do about AI? What am I going to do about personalization? I think that burning platform is getting hotter because it is becoming clearer to people that the businesses that do the most personalization are the most profitable.
And why is that?
Because they get a better return on investment for their promotion. And one, and two, Joe's softer point, which is they appear to, well, they don't, it's not they appear, they genuinely understand their customers better and have the capability to manifest that understanding in other ways.
In the way in which they interact with them.
Which is your point. I'm seen, I'm heard, know. I think one of the things that probably will happen, Joe, and not everybody will want to do it, but I think the best schemes will probably make it very easy for you to enter into a dialogue, to input, to ask, so that rather than me as a retailer sitting there, Zen-like, divining what you're going to want to eat on Sunday lunch, you tell me what you're doing on Sunday. My favorite story about this is, if you think about the famous Marks and Spencer's Marble Arch, famous because they want to knock it down and they're not allowed to, but the famous Marks and Spencer's Marble Arch, when somebody walks in that front door, you don't know whether they're there to buy a pork pie or a wedding dress.
No.
Now, if you did know that, a whole host of different things could follow through on the basis of that one, what are you here for? Now, that implies a digital connection. That implies some sort of concierge service where you say, I'm here to buy a wedding dress. Suddenly, imagine how much incentive they could give you if you were there to buy a wedding dress to sign up for their wedding list and to put your wedding list at Marks and Spencer's.
Mm.
Yeah.
They could, actually, here's a thought. They could nearly give you a free bloody wedding dress.
I'm going to give you an example, actually, from left field, which is quite an interesting one. We work with the NHS on their temporary workforce, which is roughly 280,000 employees. And at the moment, the NHS will kind of offer you a shift if you're a temporary, if you're temp staff, they'll offer you a shift. And there's no personalisation really involved in that process. A little bit of personalisation based on your qualifications to do the job. So obviously,
that's reassuring.
You have to be qualified. I think it is reassuring for us all to be able to hear that. But the way in which we are using technology for them is to be able to offer. If you're a working mum who can only do a shift from 10 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon because you've got to drop off the kids and pick them up, and it's a certain time frame that you can do, and the only hospitals you can get to are Roehampton, or St George's in Roehampton, or another one, then offer me the shifts that are relevant to me. And so allowing them the ability to, for us to be able to deliver them with a personalised shift offer is the same as, it is a similar thing to what you're talking about.
I bet you if you can create a situation where you offer people shifts that they can work, your skills shortage will drop by a third or a half.
Yeah.
Completely transform. It could completely transform,
and
all signs are positive. So, to your point, if someone's going to walk through the door and they've already said, "Well, I'm interested in a wedding dress or a pork pie," you will treat that customer differently, or you have the potential to treat that customer differently, don't you? Depending on what they're coming to buy.
Would you like chutney with your wedding dress, madam?
You don't like champagne with my wedding dress, actually. Thank you.
Yeah. And red lipstick, as we said before.
Exactly, it always works. Tim, I'm going to ask you another question based on what you're doing now, which is I've been listening hard and I've been digging in. I was trying to work out how, if I was asked, I'd describe what you do. So I'm going to run it past you, and this is an opportunity for you. You're smiling. This is an opportunity for you to restate it or to say, yeah, Joe, you got it right, which is looking to see what you do in your current business. I'm having to make a mind shift between you being the person in the past that would identify how to shift more goods to the person now that goes into companies and you don't tell them how to do their marketing, i.e. how to ship more stuff. What you do is you identify the barriers that get in the way between them having the best marketing plans. So what you do now is far more conceptual. It's you're looking to see what is it that's getting in the way of them using their data or their information, so they can't create the best marketing plans possible. Now, have I got that right? That sort of shift back.
I think that's a very fair call. Funnily enough, one of the things that I say about the founder of Eagle Eye is he's one of the best problem solvers I've ever met.
Yeah.
And this, the senior retailers in the clients where he has a special relationship have him on speed dial, and they ring him up and say, "Steve, we're having trouble with X or Y," and he'll work out for them how to solve it. So you're right. It is about what's the best way of and most efficient way of running a loyalty scheme, and then off the back of that loyalty scheme, how do I do the best personalisation?
Yep.
So what you're doing is giving the people that you work with and for a way of overcoming the barriers. How they get over the barriers, the technical, what they want to achieve, that's down to them to do. But what you're doing,
one of the things that people say to me, we actually have another business that runs end-to-end programs, which means that I can, with confidence, talk about the return on investment that you can get from these. But a big retailer might be giving away $500 million of value through a loyalty scheme. Our contract within that is $3 to $5 million. So don't ask me what the return on investment is. I'm the plumbing mate. I actually sometimes describe myself as being a digital postman. And in some ways I am. And actually, this doesn't always land very well because I think maybe people are a bit unimaginative. If you sort of just go back and think about the postal service and postcodes and think, it's bloody amazing.
Yeah.
That bit of paper, we're the digital version of that. We are as amazing as that. And actually, hopefully, what happens is people end up taking us for granted just the way we take the postal service for granted. Yeah. That's the bit that we really specialize in is doing that. So it is all about capability, but my qualification is that I can look at it through the eyes of the customer. I have the advantage that customers and potential customers, some of them are polite enough to, give me quite good access because they know me. Maybe they even like me, and perhaps they think they're sort of interested in something I might have to say. And also, hopefully, what I can do is I can spot, things that potentially they'll need. Now, the way that we work, you know, some software businesses, if you sort of think about Apple, they go away and suddenly they emerge on a stage on a black screen with this amazing thing. And you go, wow, that's amazing. I never thought of that. We don't do that. What we do is we work with clients and we get clients saying, yeah, you're right. That would be really good. Do you fancy developing it together then? And, and then we go on. So we co-fund
co-create
roadmap. But basically, it means that we can go much further and be more profitable, at least be profitable.
Yeah.
And that served us reasonably well. And I think the thing, interestingly, I'm going to ask a question you haven't asked me.
I haven't had time yet. I've only been cracking a while.
But I think the world is going to change, and actually, I think we may have touched on it a bit with what we were talking about with Paul's business. I think that this idea that there is a central analytics body which handles, sorry about that, there they go again, that handles the analytics for an organization is going to end up looking rather 1990s, 2010s.
Yeah.
I think what is going to happen is more and more innovations are going to come forward with their own AI component. And you as a buyer are not going to be able to say no, because you'll be saying no to too much innovation. So you're going to have an AI working over here, working on price and promotions, and you may have another one working over here, and then somebody's going to come in the office, the modern day version of an Ian McLaren or whatever, is going to come into the office and say, bloody hell, I got 2 coupons on Coca-Cola this week, one from this, incentive program and one from that incentive program. And I think that research-based rules for personalization, which are then implemented probably by a controlling AI, almost like an air traffic control, is going to be very important to manage this as it all comes together. Because as I've said too many times already, probably on this chat, there's going to be an awful lot of it. So you're going to need that control. That, I think, if I'm right, and that's what I'm starting to talk to retailers about at the moment, that potentially becomes a product that I think may have legs in the future.
So you say research based. You mean, and this is very topical for me because I talk a lot to organisations about AI and the impact of AI, but it was actually came home to me when I was looking at a video of will.i.am a few months ago, because he was talking about the huge amount of investment that is going on in AI at the moment. But he said it's really sad that the lack of investment that's going into HI, human intelligence, that's attached to it. Because when you talk about research, do you mean the human interaction?
Yeah,
and
I do. I think that the real skill is going to be in setting the right targets, the right objectives, that you're aiming it at.
Yeah. There's knowing where to shoot,
and the right guardrails. Now, one of the problems with retailers is they're control freaks, so that basically they will guardrail. The whole point about an AI is if you don't give it room to breathe, it doesn't really, it's got to have the opportunity to do the unexpected in order to. That's dogs being called to get fed now. But that's, I think there is I agree with that. I think there is, it's the same thing. I would argue that it will end up being not exactly the same thing, but it's the same thing with advertising and visual communication, which is, it's all text to death. But at the end of the day, the great stuff wins because of creativity.
Yeah.
Can I throw in a question for the two of you to answer between yourselves? Because so far we've talked a lot about customer loyalty, but what we've not talked about is staff loyalty, or indeed shareholder loyalty. And Tim, I don't know you as well as I know Paul, but obviously I've dug into the golden rule, as you call it, in some of your podcasts and talks about that. And it's really clear about the investment that's needed in the people you work in. And I think you've alluded to that in terms of human skills. And Paul, you touched on that. I'd really like, as a punter, not just to know what you want out of us as the market, but what you invest in terms of the people you're working with to make sure that you have that type of loyalty reward from the people you trust to give you the best information. So, two of you, tell me about that. What does staff loyalty mean to you, and is that something you value and recognise?
I'll give you my view first of all. Is what we've talked about, as you say quite rightly in this session so far, is what you have to do in order to create a really great business that thrives with customers and prospers. But actually, more important than that is what you do with your staff. So a lot of people, I'm a huge fan of a guy called Fred Reichelt, who wrote a business called The Loyalty Effect and has written another book called Winning on Purpose, when I think he probably thought he was going to die, I think, when he wrote Winning on Purpose. And so it's a little bit less guarded. And he nearly goes so far, but he doesn't go so far as saying, look after your customers and get them to look after your staff. What he says is you can only have one objective, and that objective is look after your customers. And what I say is that is nonsense. If you can't manage two objectives, don't bother to come to work. Because you've got to, if you want to really, and I'm absolutely convinced that organizations that really create value for customers do it because of the relationship they have with their staff. So for me, it's the most important thing. And actually, a thing, I don't know whether I spend most of my time doing it, but I spend a significant percentage of my time working on, I've set the objective to be the best company to work for in the UK.
If an organization wants to focus on its customers and have good engagement with its customers, then every person in the organization needs to understand the importance of the customer. So, I mean, going back to the Tesco Clubcard example, the lifestyle segmentation was given to, I think, every member of staff, wasn't it? A copy of the handbook, a little précis of the handbook was given to every member of the staff, so they understood what kinds of customers were shopping in the store and why they were important to the business and why it was important to be a customer-facing organization. And I think it kind of customer engagement goes nowhere unless you've got the engagement with the staff. It really doesn't.
So how do you choose the right staff then? How do you motivate them to get, not just to get with what you're doing, but to bring really good ideas? Because you need to be looking at the next generation, don't you? I mean, Tim's talked about inspiration from people who brought him along, and Paul, that's something I know you give credit to too. But
at the end of the day, I think there's an example, probably a clear example that we've got with Flight Centre in Australia, where we worked for. Who we worked with for many years on improving their personalisation and their personalised offers, and we put conservatively about 450 million onto their top line growth in Australia, which is a great big number, but that's over a period of time, and it took a while to get there. One of the issues that we had in personalisation was that every time we were sending shit that folds to the Australian population, a load of that shit was ending up in the stores. And that's because it was way easier for a Flight Centre person at the front line to fill in the details of the store than ask the customer for their name and address details. even though they were taking the address and the name details or the flight details to book the plane. And we did a 2.5-minute, very short video that went out to all staff that basically said how many times they were entering data incorrectly into the system. So the flight code for London Heathrow LHR, the code for London Heathrow LHR was being entered an unbelievable amount of times incorrectly and misspelled, but also customer data wasn't being captured. And at the during the video, we basically said, look, if you collect the data correctly and you do this, this, and this, we'll make more money and you'll make more in commission. Now, sorry to be so brutal about the kind of the money thing, but we linked in their heads the importance of good data collection to good outcomes for the business and therefore good outcomes for them. And suddenly compliance went through the roof. Absolutely went through the roof. It was a very simple 2.5-minute video, but no one had ever really sent them anything or sat them down and helped them understand why collecting good data was important. Because now we had good data, then we could send them better personalised offers. And it completely transformed what they were doing. So that's probably one of my best examples of where staff engagement is incredibly important, to understand the importance of customer and then good data. Because if you don't have good data, with all of this ecosystem, if you don't have good data, then the whole thing doesn't work.
The more fundamental part of that, Paul, though, is it's not holding information or strategy to yourselves as the bigwigs. You know, what Tim and you have described in separate ways is you shouldn't be jealous about the knowledge you hold. If you don't share it with your staff, one, you reduce the power potential from to 1, whereas you could increase it to 20-fold. Secondly, you're cutting off the potential for new ideas coming forward because everyone's got an investment and got a say, and they can give ideas about how to make it better and more productive. And it stops you becoming an echo chamber. It stops you getting stale, doesn't it? Yeah. You're both nodding, so I'm assuming I'm on solid ground.
No, you're right.
And that generosity, no one really thinks about. So, I mean, I know we're talking about data. I know that's, you're both business leaders in your fields, but you're both very generous about giving credit to other people that you've worked with that have either supported you or have given you a learning curve that you wouldn't have got otherwise. And do you think that's one of the leadership skills that you both show, that it's being accessible and not being so exclusive, not pretending you're the one that's got all the answers? Or are you egomaniacs and that's what you want to do?
I think I should let Tim answer that question rather than me.
Oh, God, Paul, I was studiously quiet.
I think if you don't give people the room to grow, and I am the stupidest person in every single room, and I assume that I'm the stupidest person in the room, but that also allows me to ask the stupid questions as well. And often when you're sat with people who are struggling with the questions or struggling with what they're thinking of, they're in desperate need of someone to ask a stupid question. So when I go into organizations, and it's not just within the people in our business, but when I go into an organization, I'm normally the person that's going, are you okay? What's wrong with your business? How can we help? So I've got a fly. There's a fly driving me nuts around this room. So you two have got dogs. I've locked the dogs away, but I've got a fly in the room.
Flies are quieter than dogs.
Yeah, they are. And I think I've learnt so much. I think that the careful bit that I need to remember is that I don't know as much about certain things as other people in the room. So I used this example with one of our clients the other day. I was saying, well, we're working, it's an NHS environment, we're working on Windows Vista 2008 for one of the data feeds or one of the environments that we have to look at. And I said, our developers were toddlers when that first came out. And if you think that they want to be playing around with that and not Google, or, the latest, greatest thing, you've got another thing coming. So you're wondering why we're losing people. It's because, we're not giving them clever, new, shiny toys to play with, and we need to give them more shiny toys to play with. So, I know enough to be able to give people examples and case studies, but I'm not, tell me about where the future lies, and that's where someone, as Tim said, with the creativity comes in and can talk about the future and talk about, actually that problem, we could look at that from a different direction. But I'm not normally the person in the room that's doing that these days.
What about you, Tim?
I suppose I go back to treat people the way I would like to be treated. And I think that you like to be recognized, you like to be encouraged. I'm quite a big character, and I sometimes, if you're a big character and you're the most senior person you have to be careful. And I've developed this technique where I run at things at 1,000 miles an hour and then say, maybe you shouldn't do that. And I've got a new friend, and she's pointed out to me that that's probably a bit crap. And either you run at it at 1,000 miles an hour and you stick your point, or you do something else. But caveating everything that you do with, go, 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 or maybe you don't. Probably, what I think I'm doing is just not being overbearing. But maybe what I'm doing is I'm sending a mixed message. So I just, I think you just have to be, you have to be authentic. You have to be yourself, because you wear yourself out if you're playing out of position all the time. But you have to be thoughtful. The most important thing, I think, is to be thoughtful. Providing everything you do, you've thought about and do for a reason, then I think, hopefully, if you're half a decent egg, you won't go far wrong. And I like the business to be thoughtful as well.
Yeah. Stopping and pausing and taking time to think is something that people don't often do, but should. Yeah. And in the words of Harry Styles, treat people with kindness. It's the I can't believe I just quoted Harry Styles on the podcast.
There we are.
I'm conscious of time, and I did promise that I would let you guys I would release this early. So we should probably look to wrap. But thank you so much, Tim. That was incredible.
It's been lovely having a big character on screen, which gets through the sort of technological divide. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure, Tim.
Well, thank you. That's very sweet of you. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm so not sweet. Just never think of me.
No, well, no, wait. Well, I hope you know what I meant. I do. It's nice to be nice. Some people are embarrassed to be, people don't say, do they? They may think it, but they don't say it. Because anyhow, so thank you for saying it.
Thanks to Tim, and episode 6 of Tyfano will be delving even deeper into customer engagement. A reminder that if listeners have any questions, to get in touch via Beyond Socials and #Tyfano.